And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the official, unofficial CWF Mid-Atlantic Worldwide After Show. We just finished watching tonight's episode, or at least I did. Twitter already abuzz about the Michael Elgin Trevor Lee match, and we will get into that here in just a moment. But some housekeeping that we have to do here. Jeff Edwards is not going to be joining us this week. He had some personal matters to attend to. So be sure to, we hope to have him back next week. And we should have him back next week, according to him. But we just finished watching episode 112. And when I found out that Jeff was not going to be on tonight, I went ahead and messaged the one, the only, the technical director of CWF Mid-Atlantic. He's at Statmark on Twitter. His Twitter handle is on your screen right there next to Jeff's. The one and only Grant Sawyer. Thank you for joining us, Grant. How are you?
Oh, thanks for having me back, buddy. I'm happy to fill in because, I'm just sitting around listening to you guys anyway.
I have to ask you here, now that we finally got you on. We're going to get to the episode here in a minute, but I do have some questions because we haven't really... I honestly cannot remember when we had you on last. I know it wasn't that long ago, but I want to say it was right before or right after Chip Day and Trevor Lee aired. And since that time, we started up this little after show based on that match. It was actually the week afterwards we started it up because Jeff liked the product so much. I have to ask you here because we've had Nick Richards, or not Nick Richards, excuse me. Sorry, Nick. We've had Kane Justice here. We've had CL Party on. We're having you on now. A lot of people, we said we really weren't going to have a guest on until after next week. But again, you're filling in for Jeff. Thank you again for doing that. But what is your reaction to this? Because I've had people coming up to me at shows. I've had Bruce Mitchell coming up, putting me over in front of people at shows. Is there any reaction amongst the locker room and amongst the backstage guys to this after show? Because it seems like it's taking off here, and we greatly appreciate it.
I mean, I'm very grateful for it. I don't know how. I think it just varies from worker to worker because there's guys that will never, ever listen to any podcast, even if it's about them. And there's guys, like me, that'll tune into every single thing that gets said about them.
Right.
So, it's just up to each individual. But, I mean, everyone, any kind of publicity that we can get, is obviously good because we survive on word of mouth anyways. So, grateful, I'm very, very happy to have you guys covering us, especially, the live format on the weekly basis, and not just kissing butt, there's some genuine critiques that can be taken to heart into the conversation as well.
Well, we want to thank everybody who's watching, everybody who is listening to this. We are 1650 PWAM. That's 1650 Pro Wrestling and More. Please be sure to follow us here on YouTube and then on Twitter as well. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. There's a new URL this week that people can go to jump right to the CWF YouTube page. Why don't you go ahead and give out that URL?
CWFworldwide.com.
There you go. CWFworldwide.com. You can go there. It'll take you straight to I was like, man, this is news to me. So as I'm watching the episode, I jumped on, opened up a new tab and went to it. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's the YouTube page. It redirects, which is a beautiful idea. So thank you so much for giving us that.
Oh, no problem. And that way, if we ever decide to change the distribution format in any way, we already have the URL and everything set to go.
Mm-hmm. I believe we talked to you a little bit about the distribution model and the way it was very early stages at that time when you let out that tweet about the way pro wrestling or the way CWF was on YouTube, and you said you really didn't care about copyright strikes. You just want your content to get out there. I believe since that conversation, things have gotten worse on YouTube, actually. Pro wrestling is now listed as no longer advertiser friendly. People like What Culture and everybody have been forced to pretty much shut down their production of their weekly YouTube show. What has been your reaction as a producer, as the guy who's putting it up there on YouTube, as the guy who's putting it out there? What has been your reaction as things have progressively kind of gotten worse?
I have given it zero thought since our last conversation. That's how much thought I put into the YouTube thing.
That's beautiful.
Into the YouTube policy, I should say.
I've even noticed, that that people, are going outside of YouTube. Wrestle Circus has even gone to Twitch. They are the very first wrestling company, the very first non-video game partner, I believe, to Twitch, to actually run on there. They're free on there. They're partnered with them. Have you thought about possibly going that route with CWF, going on YouTube and Twitch with it?
Yeah, like I don't look at any revenue. I don't look at any option as pulling it off of YouTube and putting it on somewhere else. To me, everything should just amplify, what we already have as far as just getting it out in more places. Yeah, I think the Twitch thing is interesting, and I definitely took note of that when Wrestle Circus went that way. But yeah, there's a lot of, Powerbomb TV, which I did a little bit of work for this past week. That's another avenue. And there's a lot of places that are coming up that are potential, streaming partners for CWF, I think, down the road.
We want to thank Sophia Moon for subscribing. That just popped up here on our end. Thank you very much. If all of you would like to join Sophia and everybody else, all of our subscribers, and get notified when we go live or whenever we post content, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And we'll give you a shout-out every time you do so on one of our live shows. Let's get into this week. The decision to put up modern vintage wrestling as a, kind of like a partnership deal. How did that idea come about? Obviously, you guys are friends with Gimmick Tree Entertainment and modern vintage wrestling. But how did this idea come about to run an episode of Worldwide with modern vintage wrestling?
Well, it was a thing where they, we're like you said, we're all very close. We're all good friends. They were renting our building like a lot of promotions do. Shakar, of course, will be in there this Saturday in the Mid-Atlantic Exploratorium. And it just made sense that if Modern Vintage is going to run in our building, and of course I'm producing their TV, we got, multiple episodes of their TV in the can that night. And it was just one of those things. It's a good partnership, and we were lucky enough where everything kind of fell into place, and they allowed us to have those two matches to air, and we presented them in a traditional worldwide format. I know that when you and Jeff had discussed in previous week, there seemed to be some confusion over whether this was going to be a normal worldwide episode, but I feel anyone watching tonight that was not familiar with the relationship between CWF and Modern Vintage, it just came off like a normal worldwide episode. A really good worldwide episode, but a normal worldwide episode.
I found it funny how the whole night Stutzy and Cecil were sitting there talking about modern vintage, and at the end of the night they were chanting CWF. That told the tale for me right here, folks.
Well, and that's what, that's not a knock at Modern Vintage. They've been running for a year or two, as opposed to our 17 years, and especially when it comes to just that building. You can't just wave a magic wand and have them chant something else. No
way, you're right.
If any of our local fans show up at Shikara on Saturday, and one of our guys works the show, and say he's normally a heel for us, and Shikara needs him to be a babyface, it doesn't mean the fans are just automatically going to cheer him if they hate him every other Saturday.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, Trevor Lee's going to get cheered no matter who he's facing. I've come to that realization. So we get into episode 112. We start off with the Dawsons versus Nick Richards and Tommy Dreamer. To me, Tommy Dreamer being in that building, and I want to preface this here by telling folks I had an opportunity to go to this show, but I didn't go to this show because my family went on vacation. I wish I had went to this show because I'm a huge Tommy Dreamer mark. I'm a mark for all four of these guys, actually. But seeing Tommy Dreamer in that ring, even though he really didn't do a whole lot in the match, it's just a nostalgia factor for me of seeing Tommy Dreamer and seeing him work. We start off with CL Party introducing these guys. Dreamer obviously representing not only modern vintage wrestling, but he also had the HOH on his tights with House of Hardcore. What were your thoughts on this particular match? I mean, it's going to be weird here for me because normally I throw it to Jeff, and Jeff his he's watching for the first time. He's still very new to the product. With you, you're there. You're part of the product. So what was this match like for you live? and even throwing it up on YouTube. Any thoughts on this one?
The entire match was made for me with introductions. To see Nick Richards walk out there with someone that's a genuine role model or hero to him in the form of Tommy Dreamer, like that's just one of the coolest things that you can have, like as a wrestler, to team with your idol or fight your idol. And that's the lasting image of that entire match is Nick and Tommy walking out on that ramp, wringing their hands together. And just that's the moment to me. I couldn't tell you hardly a single spot in the entire match, but that was everything. And, not to go off on a little diatribe or anything, but years ago there was a very infamous CWF match that was done on Halloween, one of the Massacre shows, in which we did an ECW tribute, which got a lot of heat with people. No one from ECW, but like behind the scenes, got some heat. And Nick played the role of Tommy Dreamer in that. So it was very funny, thinking back to that match and Nick being Dreamer and now walking out with Dreamer. It's very symmetrical in the grand scheme of things.
Is that match up on the YouTube channel, by the way, the one that got you guys heat? Because I'd love to go back and see what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Just type in CWF Mid-Atlantic, the ECW tribute match.
All right, I'll have to do that here. You mentioned, Nick.
I don't recommend it.
No.
It's not good, but it's fascinating.
Honestly, ever since that very first year where you had Hardcore Homecoming and that first one night stand, none of the tribute shows since then have been very good. So it's not just CWF.
One thing just to tempt anyone that wants to go see it. I know I'm bringing up stuff that doesn't even need to be brought up at this point, but the character of Bill Alfonso is played by a very young Trevor Lee.
That's all the more reason to go watch it. I wrote down a couple things here. I put Nick is beaming, and the reason why I put that is Nick has the biggest smile on his face when he walks out with Tommy Dreamer, just like you said. You can totally tell that this is a mark-out moment for Nicholas Richards. It doesn't get any better than that. Like you said, teaming up with one of your idols. The production looked better here in this episode. Was there any change in production, like different cameras? I noticed people walking around with different, photo cameras, but as far as video cameras go, was there anything different here? Because it looked a little bit more crisper here. It looked better for some reason.
The funny thing was, this is not the first time we've done that, but the other time would have been on the 80s show, which if you watch those on YouTube, they were kind of filtered to look grainier and stuff. So the quality was better, but you couldn't tell because of the effects used. But yeah, Modern Vintage does have some additional high-end cameras that we actually kind of are going to start using on a semi-regular basis. It won't be for every episode of Worldwide, but we are working with them as far as like the production and of things too, and just a give and take thing from both parties.
I will say too, CWF realizes you got to spend money to make money, and as you'll see at Absolute Justice, you got new rope, or you got new posts, you got new ring aprons. It looks like an entirely different ring next week, folks. Let me tell you. I just put down here a lot of old school Dreamer. You got the double elbow drop from Nick and Dreamer here. They mentioned something that's a little bit. I'm going to put Modern Vintage Wrestling over here because I don't know a lot about them. And CL Party tweeted out, "Go watch this match." And to me, it's like, for this show and for the purposes of this show, because this is a CWF Mid-Atlantic After Show, I didn't go back and watch it, and it's really not relevant to this. It is, but it isn't. It's continuity purposes. Sure. It's. The Walking Dead really isn't going to go back and watch Fear the Walking Dead, So
I was actually going to use the analogy of you did not have to watch Captain America: The First Avenger to then watch the Avengers.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're actually very right about that. Now that I think about it, but they mentioned the Bobby Eaton tag team series. And this is a concept that's really awesome to me. How they're stretching it out for a year, and they're going by wins and losses, and the two teams with the most wins are going to face each other at the end of the year for this tag team series title that's going to be handed to them by Bobby Eaton. Is that something that, and this leads me into a question of, are we going to see more modern vintage wrestling on CWF in the future, or is this just a one-off?
There will be some overlap from time to time, but we have a lot of overlap with, some, like with Phoenix City. Obviously, we've promoted their stuff as well. Modern Vintage returns to the Sportatorium on what is the date? And I'm blanking on the date myself. I'm sorry.
That's
In
okay.
September, I believe it is. So I'm sure we will do at least one episode when they return to the Sportatorium.
Any chance of, and this bleeds into now, any chance of seeing any kind of anything with Shakara on the YouTube channel, or is Shakara keeping that all for themselves?
I'm sure I'll be doing camera and whatnot, but that's all Shakara production. Gotcha. There will not be any CWF Worldwide. Well, I shouldn't say there won't be, because God knows I've showed up, and done stranger things. But I believe everything with Shakara will be owned and operated by them.
I think I speak for Jeff Edwards when I say that's probably a good thing, because Jeff is not a fan of Shakara. Wrestling.
It's an acquired taste. I understand.
It is. It is very much an acquired taste when you got grown men dressed as ants running around. Wrestling God Goes Dreamer also did a seminar earlier in the day. How did that seminar go over? Do you remember the turnout for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent turnout. Yeah, Dreamer is one of those guys. I mean, he will give you his all when he's booked for a show. Like, especially because I watched Dreamer for 3 straight days that weekend in Fayetteville, Jacksonville, in our building, and like he has his routine down, but like he brings it, and he will give you his honest opinion towards everything on the show, and like he will pull no punches, but he's not mean-spirited at all. He genuinely wants to make everyone and the show itself better.
That's awesome. Here we had a double cutter in the match, which was, I kind of marked out for the double cutter because it's like, hey, Dreamer's doing Nick's move. This is great. And then we had a Dreamer DDT. We thought we had new champions, but no, the foot's on the ropes. And for those who don't know, this referee who's refereeing this match, they even made he's very much a rookie here. Can you give us his name? Because I don't think I caught his name during the show. I think they mentioned it, but I didn't write it down. He's normally your camera guy, isn't he?
Yes, his name is Josh Bear. Over the years, I've had a lot of people that have run camera that they kind of start off that way, and then as they move up the ranks, they'll move to a referee or some other position. Josh is one of those guys that he's so good at everything, and with such little experience that I'm afraid I'm going to lose him as a cameraman if he continues to progress as a referee.
I will say that there are differences, like when you have other men do get that second camera for you, even when you're watching it live, because I very much pay attention to the production aspect of it just as much as I do as the wrestling when I go to that sportatorium. I'm watching you guys. I'm listening out for Stutzy, and I'm watching Stutzy in between the matches give you guys cues, give Randy cues. I'm watching you give Josh cues and the other cameraman cues, and nobody takes direction. I think it's because you and him have been doing it for so long, and you're so much in sync with each other. It's just what he knows what you want out of him. That it's just not the same when another guy's doing it with you. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I have to communicate with Josh very little. And the one thing, just to pop you, the one thing you made me think of when you were saying that was I've worked with a lot of people over the years. A lot of young guys start off, doing music, doing camera, doing random production work, whatever it may be. And the absolute dirt worst cameraman that I've ever had, no matter how much you get praised for everything else he's done, is Kane Justice.
I was going to say, you mentioned that in the chat room that week that we interviewed him. You said he was the worst one he ever had.
Absolutely. Complete garbage.
Oh, man, we still love you, Kane. So basically, we think we have a new champion. The foot's on the ropes. Josh restarts the match. He goes, makes it very clear, very sympathetic as a referee, too. I don't want to do this to you guys, but it's my job. I have to do it. So he restarts the match. Zayn ends up winning with a lariat. We get a Tommy Dreamer promo at the end of this. It's not very often in CWF that we see I don't want to throw shade on the people that are there every week, because they are, at the end of the day, they're the guys that make that promotion work. But it's not very often we see quote unquote named talent in CWF at all. So this was kind of like a rare treat. So to see Tommy Dreamer put over, modern vintage and that building and everything like that, I almost feel like the Sportatorium itself got more shout outs tonight than anybody did during this episode. But I like the promo at the end. Then we got right into the next match here with had a couple of commercials here, but we got right our usual Chastity Taylor commercial and our usual wrestling school commercial. But then we got the unbreakable Michael Elgin versus Trevor Lee. Robbie Walsh is your referee for the CWF Worldwide or CWF Mid Atlantic Heavyweight title. I can't remember this title. Not that any other champion hasn't done this, but I believe Trevor Lee, I guess because he's holding it while a lot of eyes are turning to you guys, there's never been a champion in the current area of CWF that makes that title seem more important than Trevor Lee does to me. Because, and maybe this is just the crowd playing along, but when the referee shows it to Elgin, he shows it to Trevor, and he hoists it up in the air. That title got one of the biggest pops on the show when they held that belt up. What were your thoughts in general on this match? I wrote a lot down about it, but what were your general thoughts on this one? Because for they're filming it. I mentioned this when you saw Trevor go up against Alex Daniels. There are points where I can look at you and you're smiling. You're marking out while you're behind the camera, which is damn sure not a bad thing. But what were your thoughts on this one?
I think my initial thought on is how different the match was from all of Trevor's other title defenses. Just the power of Michael Elgin gave a different feel and vibe to the entire match, because Trevor had never been in a title defense where he was so physically outmatched the way he was against Elgin. And I thought that story was just a beautiful thing to watch progress throughout that 30 minutes.
It didn't.
And yeah, and by the end of the time it was all said and done, I don't really get into ranking Trevor's title defenses, but it would be in the upper echelon. I don't even want to say top 5 necessarily off the top of my head, but I loved the Elgin match.
I wouldn't say top 5 either. I mean, I'm like you, I'd really have to sit down and look at him and think about it, but I love this match. I'm so glad you guys put this, because after this match, I mean, there's a couple times where I'm sitting there just about popping up out of my chair watching it, thinking, and then after it's all said and done, I'm sitting here kicking my own ass going, why didn't you just miss a day of vacation and go to this? Because it was one of those situations where it was like, I would have loved to have been just a fly on the wall just to see this match. I was jealous of all the fans being there. I got to say, Trevor saying this is my house and then Elgin just laying into him was great. Elgin here, and Elgin's stock has risen in the last couple of weeks, or a couple of days, I should say, since that match with Omega. But this match took place before Omega, if you're looking at it in real time wise. Elgin's lost a lot of weight. Elgin looked just as good in this match as he did in that match with Omega. In some parts, even better. And I put here, Elgin looks like, and as you said with the title defenses, would you agree that this match came off as, and we're going to get into spoiler territory here, folks, for Absolute Justice, so if you do not want to know about spoilers, thank you for tuning in, or if you're watching us on the replay, advance forward for a little bit. But I'm watching this, and I'm sitting here going, Elgin poses more of a threat than Nick Richards does in this. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think that kind of depends on your perception. Obviously, someone that's not a regular viewer of ours, of course Elgin's more of a threat. But if you've been watching CWF for any length of time, you know the Nick Trevor story goes back how many years.
Right.
And growing up and, Nick shaving Trevor's hair and all this stuff, like, there's a deep, rich storyline there where you can easily buy into the fact that Nick, being the hometown product, is more of a threat than Elgin, especially if you get into the whole, smart mark kind of, armchair booking kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like from a straight shoot perspective, I mean, Michael Elgin is a threat to anything on earth.
Yeah. And I like the fact that he went back to his, he showed you why in this match, and I don't think this is something that Elgin has done on a regular basis here lately. He showed you the unbreakable part of his character. How he's sitting there steadfast after the, very much kind of like a Taz would back in ECW. Very much, they have the stare down, and then Robbie Walsh pulls them apart, kind of. Trevor goes back to his corner, but Elgin's still sitting there with standing there with that stone look on his face. And right there at the beginning of this match, Elgin's just sitting there pretty much no-selling Trevor. I think that this is something that we haven't really seen out of Elgin much. Especially on, modern Ring of Honor, and even in the match with Omega. I have a question here in our email. Does this mean we're going to start seeing more quote-unquote name stars coming to CWF in the future?
Our business model has never been for name stars. But at the same time, I think we're becoming a little bit more of a destination thing.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think of when Cody made his list after, leaving WWE. I wonder how many guys just mentally kind of have the Sportatorium, maybe Trevor Lee in the Sportatorium on that list. So I'm not going to say we're necessarily going to go out of our way to try to track down talent, because that's never really been how we operate. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see more guys, hitting us up to come and do some stuff.
Was that a hint was that a hint that we may see Cody versus Trevor in the Sportatorium? Because I damn sure hope so.
You went out on the name. Who did you say?
I said, was that a teaser to the fact that we may see Cody versus Trevor in that Sportatorium before the year's over?
Oh, no. That wasn't a teaser to that at all. Obviously, I was actually hot today that Trevor wrestled Cody for the first time, and it wasn't in our building.
Yeah.
But, what can you do? I don't know. That would be up to Cody if he wanted to do that. But I would be obviously all for it. And nothing to do with Trevor necessarily, but that, July 15th show we have coming up, that is the perfect example of all of these people that are trying to, hit us up and try to get some exposure for themselves, because that's a show unlike anything we've ever done before.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of talent that I've never really heard of, but it's international. It's gone, CWF has now gone worldwide, But
right.
Thanks for not getting my hopes up about Cody and Trevor.
Hey, I'm not going to get my own hopes up about it. I mean, I'd love to, obviously. I'd love to have Kane versus Matt Riddle. But, realistically, will that happen? I can't say that, But
right.
It's always one of those things we all kind of hope for, and I think a lot of guys don't realize, a lot of our guys sometimes don't realize that if there's someone out there that they really want to face, pursue that. Don't just necessarily wait for it to fall into your lap. Pursue it. Let us know. If there's a dream, Nick Richards just teamed with Tommy Dreamer. This stuff is possible. You don't necessarily have to go somewhere else to do it.
I agree with Johnny P here in the chat room. Goes, Riddle is for Trevor Lee. Don't be silly. I would love to see those three in a three-way, to be honest with you. But
sure. Yeah, obviously Riddle and Trevor is fine, but I don't want every dream match to end with versus Trevor Lee.
Absolutely.
While that may be very true, I don't want that to be the only one we think of.
No, not at all. I believe Stutzy threw out on Twitter during the New Japan shows that he wants to see War Machine face either the Dawsons or the Sandwich Squad. Think about those three teams in a triple threat tag match or a three-way dance, folks. That right there, I mean, like you said, it doesn't always have to end in against Trevor Lee. So, getting back to this match here. Go ahead.
I do not want to run. I do not want to run that three-way in our building. Let's go find a random place they can destroy because the Sportatorium does not need to be the site for that match.
Oh man, yes it does. Have you patched the hole? That's all I want to know. That Trevor.
I mean, Statmark doesn't patch holes, but I'll go check to see if someone else did it.
There you go. There you go. He does camera work, not drywall. There we go. I put here that this is the most vulnerable Trevor Lee has looked thus far. If you're going in YouTube continuity, good back and forth. I put here some of the punches by Lee looked kind of like they were missing, but then again, Elgin still sold it. Good tornado DDT off the corner where he does the pivot off the corner here. I haven't seen that type of a tornado DDT done in quite a while. Elgin does a couple of Falcon Arrows. One of them is just a standard Falcon Arrow, and then he does another one off the top rope, which, man, just freaking crazy. We had a Death Valley driver by Elgin onto Lee on the apron, and penalty kicks. This is right where people and in that Sportatorium and that audience have been kind of spoiled by that penalty kick on the outside by Lee. And this right here, and they've even been doing it more and more lately of giving variations to it I put here 3, and then I had to scratch the 3 out and go, nope, 4. And Trevor was telling a story about how worn out he was getting in this match. He gives 4 penalty kicks that looked not like he would normally throw them, and then the 5th one was big and knocked Elgin down. Very good storytelling here by these two. Again, the purpose of this after show is to give our review. If you haven't gone back and watched it, go back and watch these episodes, folks, especially this episode here that we're talking about. We got a "This is awesome" chant in the Sportatorium, one that you really don't normally hear there. I was kind of surprised to hear it.
Yeah, my ears automatically perk when I hear that too, and I'm like, nope. How about we need to be chanting for Trevor?
Yeah, and
but you know what? I'd rather than be chanting that than just sitting on their hands too. So
could be worse. You could be getting boring.
Dude, I want to fight people when I hear that garbage.
It has been warranted on certain occasions. I'll say that.
Dude, if it's warranted in our building, then what the fans are doing, they're transferring the heat from the workers in the ring that I want to strangle to them.
Yeah, I see your point there. Rolling Germans here. I wrote down so many moves in this match that I can highlight here. Again, the top rope Falcon Arrow, the collision course looked like something that you would not hit on Big Michael Elgin just because of the way it looks. And again, I'm not in the business, so I'm not sure how that move gets pulled off. I don't know how much of it is Trevor doing it, how much of it is Elgin having to do with this. But for that move to go over on somebody that fucking big, it was probably the best collision course I've ever seen out of Trevor Lee. And then we had a 1 count spot into a collapse by Trevor that was just phenomenal. They mentioned that he had just done a tour of India. I'm surprised Trevor Lee's stomach isn't hurting after touring India again. And this ends with a La Magistral cradle. Out of everything that this match could possibly end with, he ties Big Michael Elgin up in a La Magistral to get that win. Johnny P puts it best here. So this is awesome. Always feels hollow to me the last 5 years, if not more. It feels droning, and they don't believe what they say. But this match, they believed it because it's not heard often in that Sportatorium. And Trevor mentions this in the promo afterwards, which that promo was already released before this. But Trevor whispers something or says something to to Robbie Walsh after the match that tells a story, and I hope you guys emphasize this going forward. I really do hope that this what kind of leads to him dropping the title, I want to say. But you hear him, and kudos to you for picking it up with your camera. He gets the win. Walsh puts the title on his chest, and if you go back and listen to it, you hear him say, "I don't know how much more of this I can do, Robbie." Was that planned?
No, there was no planned spot. It's just Trevor being Trevor and being awesome.
Well, that's what I thought, but I mean, they're you never know with you guys whether or not, hey, make sure you say this afterwards.
I mean, I know what you're saying though, because I will be like, make sure to hold your hand at a 90-degree angle when you do this, or stuff like that. But no, I mean that's just Trevor being Trevor. Yeah, like and I find his post-match interaction, specifically with Robbie, very interesting.
Oh yeah.
And you could see at the end of that match, like Trevor was physically beat up and exhausted, and Elgin had taken him somewhere that I've at least myself had not seen him go to in the title reign yet.
I will say that I'm going to say this, and this is probably going to cause a stir in the chat room. This is going to cause a stir with the CWF, quote-unquote CWF community. I want to say this was on par with Trevor and Chip, but in two totally different aspects. They both took, both of those matches consist of taking Trevor Lee to the absolute max, but in two entirely different styles and in two entirely different ways.
I agree, but didn't you just say Trevor and Elgin wouldn't make your top 5?
I'd have to sit there and think about it. I'm like you. I'd have to really sit there and think about it. But if you want to sit there and compare, Trevor Lee in the last, if you want to sit there and compare Trevor Lee's matches to the last maybe 6 months to 2017, man, I don't know which one I liked more. I don't know whether I liked him and Chip more, or whether I liked him and Elgin more after seeing it. I think the Chip and Trevor match has a little bit more. I think it has a little bit more points with me just because I saw it live and I didn't see this live. I think that may have something to do with it as well.
And the crowd experience was better for the Chip match.
Yeah. The Elgin promo after this match was damn good. Talked about how when he was a kid, he was a tape trader, and he had he put in a VHS tape, which him saying that he's only 30 years old, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I'm older than this guy. So way to make me feel old, Elgin. And for him to sit there and go mention VHS tapes and how these kids today don't know what VHS and what tape trading really is, because the way we tape trade is pretty much YouTube. It was just awesome to me for him to bring that up, and how he used to put in a tape and he saw these flags and he saw this small building. And it's something that I have always said about that Sportatorium, that it just takes you back to that old NWA studio, but you have this modern day feel to it. Again, the Sportatorium got put over more tonight than I think anything else did.
Actually, I want to comment on that, because Elgin really got over with me there. I love the match anyway, but if you have someone come into that building that's never been there before, it would sound very egotistical and self-centered to set this person to the side and be like, hey, listen here, this building's really special. You need to go out there and have a good match because our champion is special in this building. That sounds ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And no one pulled Elgin to the side and said anything like that. But in that moment, in that match, in that building, he knew. Mm-hmm. And that says a lot to me about what kind of person he is, to be that aware of the moment and the surroundings. And that got over with me huge.
It also, I mean, I agree with you 100%, but you also got to think it says something about that damn building, and it says something about what you guys have done to that building and what you guys are doing in that building when you can make it look that good, not only on YouTube, but it's something for a Michael Elgin who's wrestled in the damn Tokyo Dome for crying out loud and has wrestled all over the world to walk into the sportatorium and look around and be like, holy shit, this is, this is Techwood Drive. I'm back. I went back to
Right.
kind of like you said, back in time. It says something about you guys, whether you guys want to admit it or not. I'll say it for you. Kudos to you guys for just giving us that kind of atmosphere. I said he puts over the fans. We got a CWF chant, and then we went into the Trevor Lee promo about talking about how he doesn't know. Again, emphasizing he doesn't know how much more of this he has in him, and that's when we finally get it officially made. Him and Nick Richards next week is no time limit, no DQ, and I want to tell you guys, we are going to be doing an after show next week. It is going to be right after the episode, so it'll probably be around 11:30 midnight next week when it airs. So we understand if you don't catch us live next week. Grant, we definitely understand if you're not in the chat room next week at midnight.
Oh no, I'm going to be there to listen to what you guys have to say about that show.
I'm going to have a lot to say about it because I was there live as well as going to be watching it on YouTube. And like I said, I'm going to be skipping the Weaver Cup, and I'm going to damn sure miss sitting in that building because part of me likes the aspect of getting the live memory and the YouTube memory and in comparing the two. But that's going to be our show for tonight, Grant. Anything else you want to tell us about? Any other thoughts on this episode? That's all I had.
Just go watch it. It's a freaking incredible hour of professional wrestling.
Absolutely. I want to pick your brain here for a minute. I'm assuming you saw the G1 special in the U.S. here.
Yeah, night one, yeah.
And your thoughts on, they had celebrities like Roseanne Barr tweeting out about this thing. I got to know your thoughts, not just as a guy in the business, but as a fan. What were your thoughts of the G1 special there?
I thought Kenny Omega and Michael Elgin was phenomenal. Absolute match of the night. I mean, I can't believe I don't know if I've been sleeping on Elgin for this long or if just in the past month he's just turned it up a notch. But yeah, like I was just blown away by his last couple of performances that I've seen.
I don't think you've been sleeping on him at all because me and Edwards even said on the little after show that we did for that Elgin won the title, and the build to winning the Ring of Honor title a couple years ago was so good, and then he had those visa issues and he was forced to drop the title. And then it was pretty much like after that, his stock plummeted. Not only, his work rate, but with the fans as well. And now it's like he's lost some weight. He's got a bit of a new look. And his stock is rising again. I think he's redeeming himself with the fans. So you're not wrong in that in the slightest.
As far as the rest of the show goes, of the G1, I put it out there on Twitter. I think it was ridiculous to have an intermission 90 minutes into a 4-hour show. You at least put the tag title match on before intermission, so then you're doing 5 intermission, then 3, and it's a little closer to the halfway mark. That's just basic stuff when you're timing out a show. You always want the first half to be heavier than the second half just because of, the fans getting burned out and that kind of stuff. But the multi-man matches I thought were an okay showcase for most of the guys that are not named Billy Gunn. Okada and Cody was good.
You still with me?
Yeah, I'm still with you. I thought it was a fine initial performance from New Japan as far as on a national televised stage, but it wasn't designed to be this home. Well, it was designed to be a great show, of course, but it wasn't designed to be like the greatest show we've ever seen.
No,
it was designed to just whet your appetite, and I thought they did a very good job with that. A little bumps along the way, but as far as a first time experience. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that.
And I think they were going to get the reaction that they got, and I think that they were going to get, as far as a live crowd perspective, they were going to get that no matter what they put out there. Just because it's New Japan, and the fans were like, "Yay,
Right.
we're here, we're a part of this," And I even said to Jeff that night, kudos to the fans for not, not going. It could have been a lot worse. They could have been like UK fans and started doing soccer chants and all that at them, and they didn't. So kudos to that. Which, if there's ever a soccer style chant in the Sportatorium, I'm going to flip my shit. That's all I'm going to say. And Grant's probably going to curse you out too, I hope.
Right, yeah.
It ain't going on my TV, he says. Johnny P wants to know about the cheer wine milkshakes he insists on Cookout making him. I have a bigger question for you because we asked Johnny P on, and Johnny P says you introduced him. You and Stutzy introduced him to the glorious Biscuitville. Did you guys introduce Johnny P to Cookout yet?
Yeah, Stutzy did not introduce Johnny P to Cookout, so I have major heat with Stutzy to try and show him these other things, but ignore Cookout. That's blasphemy as far as I'm concerned.
It is. So I'm curious to know what Johnny P thought of Cookout, because you ain't going to find that up north.
You'll have to ask him, but I'm under the impression that he was a fan.
What about the cheer wine milkshakes? Because you said this on
cheer wine milkshake.
You said this on Twitter, and I even was like,
okay.
That's not on the damn menu. What? How do you order this?
Okay. It's just one of those things I tried like a year or so ago, and I just went to the drive-thru and asked them, hey, the cheerwine float that's on the menu, can you make that in milkshake form? And they said yes. So I got a cheerwine milkshake. Now every time I go through, I have to explain that I get this thing every week, and of course, Cookout, I guess, has a higher turnover, I should say a normal turnover for fast food restaurants,
right,
as far as their employees go. So almost every week I get an employee that is convinced that they do not serve cheerwine milkshake, and I have to explain to them, you just spin the thing like a milkshake. Just give me my cheerwine milkshake.
Okay, so if I'm going through here in Danville, Virginia, and I'm ordering, because they're going to look at me like I got, as Jim Cornette would say, steaming turds hanging out of your mouth, motherfucker. So just tell them, give me a cheerwine float, but put it in the damn milkshake machine. Is that what
I just say I'll just straight up order a cheerwine milkshake, and they'll be like, we don't have that. It's like, yeah, you do. I order it every week. Just mix it like a milkshake. I mean, I'm kind of an ass about it, but whatever. But we need to remember that it's July, and July and August are the only months that you can get the watermelon milkshake from Cookout.
That sounds
so you
disgusting.
actually, you have to take a sabbatical in the months of July and August from the cheerwine milkshake to properly savor the watermelon milkshake.
I have not had a watermelon milkshake. Every time I mention it, my girlfriend goes, that sounds nasty, because of the fact of it's watermelon. Now I have to ask you about this.
It is the most thirst-quenching milkshake I've ever had in my life. Don't you dare listen to anyone else's opinion on this. You go get yourself a watermelon milkshake.
Now it's not
this week immediately when you hang up, maybe.
I might do that. Now it's not water, because you think watermelon and you think watermelon is going to be like Jolly Rancher fake watermelon. It's real watermelon though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, like literally the watermelon chunks are in it. It's
nice.
A watermelon milkshake.
And another thing that I want to try at the Cookout. Welcome to Cookout Live, ladies and gentlemen. Cookout Talk. I got to try the eggnog milkshake too, because I'm an eggnog fan. Come December.
Oh, I don't do the eggnog.
You
so
don't do
I can't
eggnog.
help you there.
Oh, we should draw the limit at the eggnog. But I'm glad you guys, when Johnny P comes down, because I always say, northern people have the best, some of the best food on earth. Once you go north of that Mason-Dixon line, you'll find out what a real pizza is, and you'll find out what a real deli is. But down here, it's
hold on. Now, wait a second.
Here we go.
Now, wait. I've lived all over this country, and the best, and there is something to be said for New York pizza. But the best pizza I've ever had has come from various locations none of them were in the north.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm big on wood fire or brick fired pizza.
Oh, me too.
So and huh?
Me too. I love anything where you can actually see it cooking in that fire. It's magic.
Have you been to Blaze Pizza yet?
Not yet. Not yet. I've been hearing good things about it.
It is a chain. It is a chain, and I kind of frown upon pizza chains as opposed to the local places. But Blaze Pizza actually does like the brick fired, wood fired stuff right.
I need to go check that out then. Is there one in Burlington?
No, the closest one to me is in the Cary area.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh man, better New York style pizza in Greensboro than in New York, says Sophia Moon. I honestly like.
Oh,
I mean, they. I'll be honest. Like as far as delis go, if you want an actual deli, you have to go up north. If you want an actual butcher shop, you can find them here in the South, but you got to go up north. But it's, as I was saying, it's the little things like introducing Johnny P to Cookout in Biscuitville, which is two things that they do not have up north yet. And is just, I always find it funny when people come down and mark out over stuff like that. But Grant, I want to thank you so much for joining us again tonight. I'm looking forward to next week here, and hopefully Jeff is back next week. Like I said, he had to miss due to a personal issue this evening, and we want to wish Jeff Edwards well and all the best and a speedy return here. But any final thoughts here before we close out the episode tonight?
Sophia is saying Biscuitville is overrated.
Oh, no way.
Actually, now hold on. I kind of agree because I do think if everything's even, that Bojangles is actually better than Biscuitville. And I know that's sacrilegious to some people.
It depends on what you get. Honestly, it depends on what you get.
Sure.
Biscuitville's grits are better than Bojangles. At least the one up here in Danville, because they never get it right. They don't have a Cajun filet biscuit at Biscuitville. Biscuitville steak biscuits are better. I like Biscuitville's bacon over Bojangles bacon, but we could do an entirely different show talking about that. But folks, we want to thank you guys.
Yeah, just switch us over to the Food Channel right now, man.
That's right. Oh man, it's crazy how two people from the South can just clash on food like that. I'll be honest with you though. This past weekend we vacationed in Myrtle Beach, and you're familiar with that area. I'm assuming everybody from around here has been to Myrtle Beach at one time or another.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's a big tourist trap. I hated it, but I went there because my family wants to go. You know,
you need to convince them that Virginia Beach is the place to go. A lot less people, a lot cleaner.
Oh yeah. Honestly, Virginia Beach though, a lot more murders happen down there.
In Myrtle?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Virginia. I grew up going to Virginia Beach, and I was like, okay, there's nothing here. They don't have anything like Broadway at the beach or anything like that. So, again, Joe likes pretty lights and pretty colors. So, Sophia says, watermelon cheesecake shake, believe again. But
yeah, no,
they put Wahlburgers in at Broadway at the beach, which of course is
yeah. I saw your tweet. My mom actually just ate there about a month or so ago and was putting it over to me too.
It was awesome. It was the best macaroni salad. Like, I don't like packaged macaroni salad. I think that crap is, if it's not homemade, it's garbage. So I got macaroni salad because they said everything was freshly made, and I was like, all right, let's test this crap out. It was literally some of the best macaroni salad I've ever had in my life, and the hamburgers. The pickles especially, because they're made in the restaurant every day. But the hamburger, it beat Red Robin. And it was on par as far as pricing goes with Red Robin. Everything is a la carte. So the burger cost me about $8. They give you a big old cup of fries for like $3.50. That's the only thing I disagree with, is they don't have like combos. It's not bottomless fries like a Red Robin is. Everything's a la carte. Sure. But you get what you pay for.
Didn't you say the wait was 2 hours?
The wait there, because it's at Broadway at the beach, and because it's fairly new, and it's 4th of July weekend when we went down there, we got there at 6 o'clock or quarter till 6. We did not start eating or sitting down until about maybe 8:30. It was about a 2-hour wait. They do this thing.
Yeah, that ain't happening, brother.
Well, they do this thing where they take your phone number and they're like, "Oh, go bomb around Broadway at the beach, and we'll text you when your table is ready." And so we went and played mini golf over there at the other side of Broadway. And by the time we finished the mini golf, our table was ready. So.
No, that's not a bad hook. I'll give them that.
No, and then the other one I want to try, which I'm gonna have to try it when we go to Tennessee in December, is they put a Paula Deen restaurant down there, which serves everything family style. You'd pick like
Yeah. I think I've been to the one in Savannah.
You pick like well, there's only 2 locations of this one. It's called Paula Deen's Country Kitchen. They only have 2 of them. They have one at Broadway and one in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And the gimmick is that you pick 3 entrees for the table, or is it? Yeah, 3 entrees for the table and 4 sides for the table, and everybody gets
Right.
dessert. And they serve it family style, which is big plates of, like if you get the pepper steak, they're going to bring you a huge bowl of pepper steak and you share it. And it's all you can eat. But it's $22 a head. So,
Yeah, they definitely. Paula Deen has a restaurant in Savannah, but it must be separate because there's a separate gimmick like that in Savannah. Maybe it's not under the Paula Deen umbrella or whatever. But I've definitely ate at a place like that.
There's a place called in North Carolina like that called Hillbilly Hideaway that does family style stuff, but it's very low scale, my girlfriend says. But anyway, we're going to get out of here, folks. We'd like to thank Grant for coming on here. Follow him on Twitter at Statmark. Go buy his books on Amazon. Hit him up about that. They're still selling them out there, folks. You can get them on your Kindle. He's done great stuff with Graham Cawthorn. But we're going to get out of here, folks. Thank you guys so much for listening this week, and we will see you at the Sportatorium.